So next we will go down these icons here, down the left side of the window. The icons on the left side are only going to be visible when you have an actual spectrum open in the software. The top one is called pointer. It is used for cursor manipulation to move your cursors around the screen. The next one down is called a spike removal tool, or it is also called a shape corrector. It is a click, drag, and hold. So if you find a peak that it should not be there because it is a cosmic ray or solar spike, you click and hold and then drag this down over your peak and you'll see your peak disappear. And then it's gone. Next one over is also a shape. Next one down looks like a little pencil. It's called the shape corrector tool. Once again, if you have a peak that is a solar spike and you want to get rid of it, you can zoom in on the peak and use your shape corrector tool, and you can just drag this pen across the bottom of the peak and the peak will disappear. Or unfortunately, what I do not like about this tool, that if you just do not feel like doing your work, you can just come in, take a spectrum, and you can just draw in peaks. And right there, I just found the cure for cancer. I have the data to prove it. Fourth one down is magnifying glass. It is a click and hold and drag zoom. You click, hold, form a box around what you want to zoom in on, and then release, and it will zoom in. Fifth one down is an intensity shift. If you have lots of big peaks but you want to look at these little tiny peaks that are down here in the bottom, you can click and hold and slide up and it will stretch your scale. So that way you can see the peaks that are real tiny at the bottom of your data. And you can click and drag down and it'll shrink it back down the other direction. But if you're zoomed all the way up and you want to see some data that is to the side, that is off your screen, because for example you are zoomed in somewhere and you want to see data that is to the right, the next one down is a scale shift. You can move your scale left, right, scroll down it, scroll up it, scroll your scale in any direction that you want to see what is there. Next is an add constant. Once again, everything is click, hold, and drag. So if you go over your spectrum and you click and hold and you slide up, it adds a constant to every single data point. Pretty much just shifts all your data points evenly up or down. If you're pushing this up, it is adding a constant. If you are dragging down, you are subtracting a constant. Next below that is multiply by constant. So we click on that, click, hold, drag. If you slide up, you're multiplying all of your data points by a constant. If you click and hold and you drag down, you are starting to divide all of your data points by a constant. Next one down is add a peak or a manual peak labeler. The software can label peaks for you automatically, but some people like to do them manually. So you can click on the add peak icon on the left side of the software. Then you go over the top of your peak and you click and it labels your peak for you. And if you can see now, it left this really ugly red looking bell curve that's going around our peak. The one below that is if you want, you can manually adjust your peak to fit it manually if you don't want the software to do it automatically. You just go by the corner of the red line and you can slide in or out to manually fit to your peak. And if you decide that you don't want it or you labeled the wrong peak, the next icon down is called remove peak. You click on that, you hold it over the peak label. It doesn't remove the peak, it removes the peak label. So you hold it over it, you click it, and the peak label disappears. Next one we have is integral. Very nice, gives you two cursors. You slide them around your peak. And you probably can't see in the video, but in the black cursor here, there is another black line that kind of goes diagonally, connecting the two black cursors that are around the peak. When you use the integral, it opens this window in the center. You have from, to, top, base, and full. From and to is the spectral position of the two cursors that you're using to fit your peak. Top is everything that is above the black line that goes across the two peaks, is the area of everything above it. Base is everything below this black line, and full is top plus base. Next one down is baseline points. The software can automatically do a baseline adjustment for things with a big baseline or high fluorescence. But if you have some kind of little hump of a peak that's not really a big strong peak, if you use the automated software in the program, there's a high probability that the software will actually remove this low broad hump from your data, thinking that is just stray light or fluorescence. So if you wish to avoid the software from automatically removing low-lying wide peaks, you can add your own base points manually by using the third icon from the bottom of the ones on the left, and you just click along the baseline and you can add points to the spectrum yourself. And any point that you click when you do subtract later, the software will try to pull that point down to 0. When you see this little hump here, if that's part of your data, you don't want to put any points on it, you pass it and put a point somewhere else. So when it subtracts, it will not try to pull that down to 0. It'll leave that as it is. If you realize you've made a mistake and have accidentally placed a baseline point on one of your peaks, the next icon down is a baseline point removal tool. So you can go back over the point again, click on it, and it will remove that point from your baseline calculation. And then the final icon on the left side is just an axis shift. It just slides your scale left and right. Not the scale, but the whole image. There's really no reason to click on it. And that's going to conclude the icons going down the left side of the screen.